Hello and welcome to the WIHS Journal, Public Affairs from 104.9 FM. I'm Paul Kretschmer. This is the second of 2 days with Michael Clark, who advanced and rose above his abusive behavior and is now working with people to surmount their abusiveness. My first question, is there a timetable that can be followed or is it very individual?
Right. It's extremely difficult to put a time frame on the kind of healing and the kind of change that goes into that transformation from being abusive to being someone who's safe. We do see that individuals who take a multifaceted approach, they read about domestic violence and about the causes of what's causing their excessive need for control or their difficulty managing their emotions or whatever, and they are growing their faith and their understanding of how God sees them, and they are going to counseling, and they're doing journaling and reflecting on their own actions and how they're changing. When they do multiple things, that change happens faster, and it tends to be more complete. And, of course, all of us have to live and work and, make dinner and clean the house and do other things. And so some of that is challenged by the amount of time that we have to devote to it. But the more focused and the more time that a person spends on that, the faster it happens. But, it just depends upon the issues that they have to overcome and how quickly we can realize what those issues are and we can, accept a solution for them.
People who have had a substance abuse problem in the past have been described as being in recovery when they're attempting to remain abstinent and sober. For someone who has been living an abusive life, is it possible for someone such as yourself or other individuals to consider themselves cured or repaired? Or is it something that you find yourself dealing with on an ongoing basis, even maybe in small ways, but ways which still may make you nervous from time to time about yourself?
I think that recovery is, it's very difficult to measure. And as we said, it's a long process. And so with abusive behavior, really we're talking about anything that we do that damages our relationships and can hurt another person. And the reality is that all of us do some of these things some of the time. And so it's really a matter of degrees of, how much do I raise my voice and how often? Do I say hurtful things in the heat of the moment? Or, am I getting better at managing my tongue? And so I think that it's difficult to measure that exactly. One of the things we encourage people to do is journal and to, get a snapshot of the situations and the reactions that they have in the moment. And as they continue to heal from those wounds that are causing those reactions, they can go back in their journal and see that, oh, I really have made progress. And so it's really a matter of degrees. I think all of us have to be aware of the different ways that we can damage our relationships and hurt our partners. Maybe we've never done anything physically, but emotionally there are all kinds of different ways that we can also do some damage there. And so I think we all need to be aware of, being in guard for that.
Mm-hmm. When you recommend someone start journaling, if they feel or respond with something along the lines of, oh gosh, I've never done anything like that before, or I've never kept a diary before, or I'm not sure what I would write, or I'm not sure what I would say, where do I start? How do you help them get going at the beginning so that they can start the process instead of merely being worried about how they would do it and then not be doing it?
Right. Yeah, it is very different than just having a diary and sitting down every night to, dear diary, here's how my day went. We have a guidebook that is free and available on our website that talks specifically about what they should write down, questions that they should be asking themselves, and so it's that specific process of discovering what they're reacting to, discovering the emotions and the thoughts that might have been behind that reaction, and then taking that even deeper into, what sorts of identity issues like, am I lovable or am I worthwhile, might be behind that. And so through that process, we guide people in their journaling to get deeper and to get to the core of what's driving their behavior. So it is a very specific thing, and we give them that guideline to look at.
So it's a tool, and it's something that you choose to be, and the person you recommend it to chooses to be very methodical about in order to maximize the effectiveness in helping someone as they proceed using that tool.
Yes, it's and I think what you described it as a tool. It's something that we know is helpful to people. Obviously we can't require everybody to use it, and it doesn't mean that you have to use it. It just helps that change process.
You've discussed a little bit at the top of our conversation some of the pathway that you followed. What can you tell listeners right now about how you've taken what you've discovered about yourself and worked on your own behalf and on behalf of those that you interact with, and taken it to another level in terms of assisting other people who can find themselves confronted by this difficulty, and you find that you're empathetic for them and would like to take what you have learned and share it with other people?
Yeah, it's a good question, Paul. As I mentioned before, when I was going through the process, I really wanted to figure out why I was doing this, and I found that was a really hard question to answer. Most of the research I did on the internet was geared towards victims and what the victim should do. And there was really very little that someone who's causing harm, like me, could find that was available to help. As part of being arrested for domestic violence, I was sent to a batterers intervention program, and I was really hopeful that would be helpful. And in fact, it was not. It told me that I was doing this because I was an entitled had a superiority complex, and that didn't resonate with me at all. And as I looked around the room, the other guys in the room, and listened to their stories, that didn't seem to be the case for them either. And so my thought was, this is way harder than it needs to be, because it's all too common of an issue, and it profoundly affects people's lives. And so I thought, maybe if I figure this out, or figure some of this out, I can take what I've learned and reach back and help others. And so as I went through this change process and came out on the other end and felt better about myself and was able to have good, healthy relationships, that was just always on my heart. And so here, 3.5 years ago, God orchestrated my life so that, I just knew that it was time to do something tangible in that direction. And so I started the Ananias Foundation at that time, and that's really been our mission, is to provide guidance and encouragement for those who have harmed a partner but are looking to change.
Thank you very much for the generosity of your time to speak with me by phone for the benefit of listeners in Connecticut and Western Massachusetts. We've been speaking to a gentleman who calls himself Michael Clark, and I appreciate very much the time you and I have spent together, sir.
Paul, thank you so much for your time.
My thanks once again to Michael Clark, willing to share his story about abusive behavior in the past and how he seeks now to help others to get beyond it. For further information, call us at 860-346-1049, 860-346-1049. The opinions expressed are those of the participants, not necessarily those of the staff or management of the station. I'm Paul Kretschmer on the WIHS Journal, Public Affairs from WIHS.